So I'm in my chair scared. And because there are a variety of symptoms, it was too much for me to process. Because, hello, it's Carrie.mp4, and if you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, I hope that you subscribed and that you'll stick around for this video. So today I'm going to be updating y'all about my experience with my thyroid gland so far. I'm making this video because I've had problems with my thyroid for almost a decade now, and I've had all sorts of conversations with doctors to help with this. Some conversations better than others, and now that I am actually in the process of making things better, actually dealing with doctors who listen to me and take me seriously after almost a decade of trying for that to happen, I want to encourage y'all just to take in my story. If you are on the fence about going to any sort of doctor or on researching or just what is going on, and do some research. And if you're able and have the resources, because I know we don't all have the same resources the same 24 hours in a day, take a trusted someone, if you have a trusted someone, and head to the doctor, the specialist, even the functional medicine doctor, whoever. Get you a full thyroid panel. Be real with yourself, but don't rush, because you guys might miss something. And ask questions about any procedures or medicines that are mentioned in your presence. And I could not go off the cuff with this one, so I got all my notes. So when you see me looking around, it's my notes, as well as I get a little nervous being on camera for a long time. So feel free to put any questions or comments at any point down into the comment section below. I'm going to put some links in the description probably. Basically, I'm not the doctor, I'm the patient, and I'm just telling y'all my story. Although over the last several years I've done so much research myself, it kind of seems like I'm the research doctor instead of the professionals, but that's what we're here to talk about. So I can't go into every single experience because this video will be too long and I got things to do, but I'm gonna give y'all as much as I think is relevant, and if I need to do more, then I'll just do that. So I knew thyroid issues could be in my future ever since I was a teenager. My mother had them, my grandmother had them, and we think even my great grandma had them. The only reason we say we think is because she wasn't, like, my great grandma didn't even finish like high school education. She didn't get to have that opportunity. She was 90 when I was born. She died at 104, bless her soul. So she was living at a time, this Black Caribbean woman born in 1907, she did not have the resources of, you have Hashimoto's, you know what I'm saying? So she had issues, we didn't have them for her under the same name we have it for me. And because there are a variety of symptoms that can also be symptoms of something else, it's best to read up, take careful note of your body on paper if you have to, and work with a professional to assess and treat thyroid disease in whatever form it takes. So most doctors were flippant with me about my thyroid concerns, or they told me that it was just my anxiety, or you're too young, worry about this when you're a little older, when you're thinking about having a family, come back when you're 30. All these things basically just really to tell me that I'm not a person to them. I am just the potential of a womb, even though I'm already here myself. Come back when you're ready to have a family. Come back when you're 30. Like, what you're really saying is come back when we think your hormones might impact a fetus. Well, my hormones are impacting me. So I'm going to come back next week. How about that? So I got really annoyed about all this, and I would just be like, okay, I'm going to find a different doctor. Okay, in 6 months, we're going to try this again because, this is just not working out. But I am not willing to accept that it's just not working out. So I was told similar things about my thyroid gland as I was told about what became known to be my PCOS. And I didn't even know, that an ovarian cyst could get so big that it could bend your tube over and you might need emergency surgery for that, until one of my friends told me that. And around that time that I found that out, I had a cyst that was almost big enough to be getting to that area, to that size itself. And I was like, the more you know. And then I finally had a transvaginal ultrasound, which, by the way, those are not supposed to hurt. So when I finally had the transvaginal ultrasound, my right ovary had a cyst that was just shy of being a serious problem, like I just said. So back to the thyroid now. My doctor in 2019 had sent me to get an ultrasound, and they found 3 or 4 goiters. I'm gonna have a different clip so y'all can see what I'm talking about a little bit. You're just gonna be like, oh, her neck is just swollen, or no, these are the goiters. My neck should just be shook, but instead it's like shook. You'll see. So I had these 3 or 4 goiters. All of them were thankfully benign, except one which came up as inconclusive. I had first noticed that around 18 that my thyroid was just a little bit at the time, just a little bit bigger than usual. But then by the time I was 21, I was like, okay, no one's taking me on. My neck is a different color than the rest of my, this part of my neck is a different color than the rest of my neck and my face, and then it's only in this certain area. It feels kind of weird. Starting to feel a little bit self-conscious wearing my favorite necklace because my neck is getting bigger, and I'm starting to notice people aren't looking at me here, they're looking at me here, then up here. When there's something abnormal, people look at that, but then they look at your face because they're not trying to be rude. So I was like, I don't like that. This is going to be an issue before I'm 30 for sure. So at that time, that was a time when I was really not eating as much as I should. I was eating, looking back, what was outrageously low amount of calories given my body's needs and the fact that I was exercising several days a week and also just walking around my college campus. And so that is one of the things that they'll often bring up. You just need to exercise, just eat less meat. At the time of one of these doctor's visits, I actually was completely plant-based, 100% plant-based. And so for this specialist, this endocrinologist, to say eat less meat, you didn't ask me what I eat. You assumed my diet. You assumed all these things. Why? Didn't ask me what my exercise routine looked like. Didn't ask me what I do on a day-to-day. Didn't ask me what my diet looked like. Didn't ask me anything. Didn't ask me to bring in, what do you usually eat in a day? What do you do this? What do you do that? What were your last blood tests with your regular, with your PCP? None of these questions. So I'm just like, okay, these doctors I've had in college are just not it. So fast forward, since I was 21, I've seen several doctors as in primary care physicians, who declined to refer me to specialists because it wasn't needed according to them. All I needed to do was exercise. I done exercise so damn much to nothing happening, and I felt like I was losing my mind because they just keep telling me to do the same thing, and I'm doing it. That is the literal definition of insanity, that I'm just doing the same thing. Nothing's changing, but they're telling me it's just me. Well, if it's just me, then let's figure out what about me is different to every other person you gave the same subpar advice to, so we can get somewhere, right? Wrong. I had 2 or 3 separate endocrinologists that were sadly pretty much all useless. Like I just said, the advice was subpar, and I was like, you guys are specialists. You're not, asking to get full panels. You're not telling me to go to Quest or anything like that. What's up with that? Time passes, I have my PCP, my OB-GYN, those are the only 2 doctors I have, and then I moved from East Coast to Texas. And in Texas, I find out that I have endometrial hyperplasia, which is being managed by a surgical procedure I had earlier this year, and I have PCOS, which I already knew I had PCOS, and that is being managed by a specific birth control. I used to be on birth control, then I wasn't for a while, and then the one I'm on now is in particular for PCOS. So it's a low estrogen birth control specifically to inhibit the formation of ovarian cysts that would have formed during ovulation. So I had my period this year, well, end of last year and this year, for 100 something days, from pretty much December 8th to like March something, except for like a 8-day stretch in February when I traveled to New Orleans. I guess that was my small miracle, that I didn't have my period when I was on the airplane and presenting. But other than that, I had my period from December to basically the end of March. Oh God. And so I was always kind of close to being a little bit iron deficient, but not so much that it would be a problem. But then with this coming into play, I became severely anemic. And so I'm writing my thesis, I'm finishing my master's classes, I'm waiting to see, just what am I going to do with the next year of my life. And I'm sitting down writing my thesis, my legs are falling asleep because unbeknownst to me, I literally did not have enough blood left in my body for it to circulate properly. So I was already feeling like, wow, something's wrong. Let me go call my regular doctor. Thankfully, my PCP was around my age. I think that is what helped. When I was like 21, all my doctors were like 50 something. And I think that gap also made them feel like, oh, this is just a child who's worried. No, I am a young adult who saw what happened to the 3 generations of women before me. And I do not want to hurt myself more than needed because I ignore what is already set up. That's what it was. So we do a blood panel. She calls me back in. She's like, girl, we gotta get you to the hematologist. I'm scared. So I get the hematologist and, I'm explaining all this stuff, and giving them the background information, and they got the copy of my blood test from my PCP, and he's like, okay, let's get you this like full iron panel, not just iron, but like we're gonna break it down, red blood cell this, white blood cell this, immunoglobulins, all this stuff, your EO, and your ferritin, your hemoglobin, the whole panel. So we get that. Come back. This is all while I'm in school, by the way. Get that, come back. I wear a mask when I go to the oncology center. Oncology is cancer. The hematologist, blood doctor, and oncologist, cancer doctor, are housed together a lot of times. So I go to an oncology center to talk to this hematologist. So I go to the oncology center, and my hematologist wears a mask for me because I wear a mask when I'm there. Also, it's a cancer center. I'm gonna wear the mask. Like, what? I'm literally passing people actively fighting cancer. What? So, I kid you not, he had on his mask. He pulled up my files to go over my numbers. He was like, I forgot what your ferritin was. So he's clicking. He sees my ferritin number. He pulls his mask off like he's in a TV show, turns his head, and he says, what? So I'm in my chair scared. And he's like, your ferritin is so low, your choices are either start iron infusions as soon as possible or just go to the hospital. And I say, oh. And then he scrolls a little bit more and he says, wow. And I say, wow, what? He's like, you don't have enough blood. Oh, okay. Can I do the infusions here or where do I go? Because we need to get that started. So now I'm like, okay, that explains part of why I felt like death and part of why I haven't even been able to look at myself in the mirror without feeling like I was genuinely going to die before the summer was over. Like when I would look in the mirror, like my lips were pale, like to a degree that did not make sense and to a degree that they never were in my life before, except for when I had had a surgery when I was a child. And that surgery, afterward, blood and pus had entered my lungs, and I had to watch them stick a needle in my lungs and just take it out. And so for me to look at my face and to feel like I look as tired and halfway to death as I did when I had that surgery as a child, of course it was very overwhelming. So at a certain point, I thought it was possible that I had long CO. But after doing some more research and reading and stuff as time went on, and like there's so many journal articles out now, that I realized I did not have like ME or CFS, you know, like chronic fatigue syndrome. I think the fact that I had, and that's also when my period started lasting for 100 days and 100 nights, the fact that they started at the same time, basically, I think it just exacerbated what was already happening. Not that I have CFS or ME or in other words, I don't have dysautonomia, I don't have chronic fatigue syndrome, thank God. So I'm like, okay, at least I don't have that, but I do have pretty serious stuff going on regardless. And I'm also trying to finish school. And then in the middle of all this, I won like Master Student of the Year. So I'm like, wow, like thank you for seeing me. I don't think it's even set in that I had that, because in my head I was just like, what next? So then what next? And you guys might be thinking like, what does it have to do with your thyroid? It's gonna come back because your iron and your thyroid medicine, they have a connection. And I'm just trying to like help you guys see that like symptoms of one thing can also be symptoms of another thing. So while I'm talking, maybe you will think, oh, I should go get this panel. I should look up what you get for this panel. I should see if my insurance, you know, all these things. I'm just trying to give you what I got. I had 2 ultrasounds on my thyroid this year. At the same time, all this other stuff is going on. I'm doing school and all this stuff. And then I had a biopsy done after school was out, after I graduated my master's. So, of course, in the ultrasounds, they see the goiters. That's a given, duh. In the biopsy, thankfully, all of them were conclusively benign, and I didn't have like, I forgot what it's called, but it's like a rare kind of follicular abnormality. And so I'm like, okay, at least I don't have thyroid cancer, thank God. Because I've had 3 cancer scares this year. They thought I had blood cancer, aka leukemia. They thought I had uterine cancer. Thankfully, the pathology came back that fibroid in my uterus. I have 3 fibroids in my uterus. Thankfully, that pathology just came back that the fibroid it just alerted them at first, but it's not cancerous, thank God. And let's all pray it stays that way. And so I'm like not even like processing all of this because it was too much for me to process. You gotta understand, all of this is like in a scale of like 3 months, because I didn't get to go back to my PCP to talk about my iron being laughably low until I got back from the conference, which was in the middle of February. So I didn't get back to the doctor till the end of February. I didn't get to the hematologist till March. I graduated at the end of April. So this is all so far taking place in like a span of 3 months. So I have these 2 ultrasounds, and let's also remind ourselves my insurance is So I didn't have time to process all this because I gotta process my thesis and I gotta process everything else in my life that I was already trying to process before I became aware of these things. So I have these 2 ultrasounds, these biopsies. I'm like, okay, good. I don't have these types of cancer. Thank God. We are gonna keep checking on those though, just in case one day I do. Because once again, I gotta check these things because the doctors before these ones wasn't checking for nothing. What do we find out recently? My TSH levels are abysmal. What is abysmal? Well, the acceptable minimum is 0.4. My TSH is at 0.02. Exactly. So, in 2019, when I was finishing undergrad, I had a doctor through my student health, and she was looking at me and she's like, is your neck a little bit swollen? I said, yes, I do think so. She said, okay, stop meeting me and just go to the actual hospital next door, have like an appointment and go get an ultrasound. I'm gonna write you up an ultrasound. I'm like, thank God for this doctor who actually, I didn't have to, she was the first doctor in that place that I did not have to beg to help me in a specific way. Oh my goodness, I am so thankful for her, because if she didn't do that, who knows if that would have, when the chain of events that led me to knowing what is wrong with me now, who knows when that would have started. But so then the doctor at the hospital, full practice, she said, I think you have Hashimoto's. And I agreed with her. But then she came back, she said, I think I misinterpreted. The reason she thought she misinterpreted, she did not misinterpret. But the reason she thought she misinterpreted was because my levels were doing this. So because this week it was like this, you're like, ooh. But then this week it's like this. So you're like, oh. It was just a fluke. It was not a fluke. It was not a fluke. These glands, they can get you, okay? It was not a fluke. I've had Hashimoto's this whole time. I just never brought it back up because anytime I went to a doctor and I would bring up something by name, they would get antsy because now they think that I'm better than them. I just think I know the name of the term. I just think I use Google Scholar. You need to help me. I don't think I'm better than you. I think it's my body, mind, and I think that I care about it. So I would, I wouldn't say Hashimoto's. I would just be like, oh, is there like any specific thyroid diseases? And they would all say hypothyroidism. That's what I have. I know I have hypothyroidism because hypothyroidism is the consequence of Hashimoto's. Hashimoto's is autoimmune disease of the thyroid. And keep in mind, I have had 2 times since 2020. It probably exacerbated it, maybe not, maybe it did. I cannot say for sure. But what I can say is that it certainly did not help, okay? So, Hashimoto's, autoimmune disease of the thyroid, leads to hypothyroidism, which I have. It is also possible for you to have Graves' disease. I don't have as much info on Graves' disease, so you gotta Google that one on your own because I don't have that one. I didn't read up as much about it. I'm sorry. So hypothyroidism is a condition where a thyroid gland underproduces hormones because, in true autoimmune fashion, Hashimoto's causes the immune system cells to be the harbinger of death for the thyroid cells that produce the thyroid hormones. So in short, the hypothalamus sends out TRH hormone to the anterior pituitary gland. That triggers the anterior pituitary gland to send TSH to the thyroid gland. TSH then makes your thyroid release T4. T3 is converted from T4. Then, when it's time for the thyroid to take a little break from doing this work and converting, reverse T3, reverse the process, we could pause for now, is sent up back to the brain to say, hey, we could chill out. But that is not happening in my body. So, since my TSH is not enough to send these signals properly, these goiters started forming because my thyroid is like, we gotta churn some butter, we gotta make something shake. What's not shaking? And the more it tries to make something shake, the bigger the goiters get. Do you understand me? So, the goiters start forming, the T4 and the T3 cannot properly do their jobs. So the Hashimoto's is killing the cells. The thyroid is forming goiters because it keeps trying to churn out all the hormones I need. But the poor thing just can't handle it. It just can't handle it. My poor thyroid just can't handle it. And so it just keeps going and going and going and going. And it does not send the stop signal because there is no proper signaling from the reverse T3 to encourage my hypothalamus to take a little break until it's time to come back. And that is because my TSH levels are at 0.02, near non-existent. And I'm actually a little bit iodine deficient. And I bring that up because they say that most Americans, if you have too much iodine, the first thing they're probably gonna do is make you have a little bit less. But I don't have that problem, so they didn't do that. Okay, hi. So what I was trying to get at is that if your iodine is out of range, as in if it is too high or too low, it will impact the efficiency of your thyroid gland and what your thyroid is supposed to be doing for your body. So that is what I'm getting at. So you want to make sure that whatever specialist you're talking to is going to look at your iodine levels. So what does all this TSH and the thyroid this and that mean in an everyday sense? It means that the hormones that help us regulate things like body heat, ability to tolerate cold, fatigue, muscle aches, muscle strength, your joint pain, skin dryness, constipation, weight gain, metabolism, depression, other related mental health concerns, puffiness, inflammation, your menstrual cycle, how much you sweat, blood cholesterol, your hair, and your memory are at suboptimal levels. And to be frank, now that I know that my TSH is at 0.02, I am truly an emotional angel because it's been a time. So, thankfully, I don't show all these symptoms at one time. Thankfully, my hair ain't never fall out. Thankfully, I don't be constipated. All the things I can get, I'm given. I've opened my laptop, I have read articles, I've made notes, I've talked to people, I've made myself my mini doctor because I thought nobody was going to listen to me until I was deep in my 30s. You know, I made sure I did not buy into a culture that requires me to be productive to the point of my own demise. I don't accept that. And so, shout out to my parents as well for helping me and taking me to the doctors and encouraging me when we drove home and I was sniffling, and then when I could drive myself to the doctor, I'd come home and, you know, I'm just, oh, they didn't listen to me, and they helped me find a new doctor, they helped me do this, they helped me do that. So shout out to my parents. I just want y'all to understand that you need to take down these symptoms of yourself. When I got the first time, I wrote down things that I noticed that changed. When I got the second time, I did the same thing. There might be differences I'm not consciously aware of because that is something that happens, but something that I just do, that I take note of things, because if I don't know me, who the hell will? So with that virus, notice things that happen. I've noted what has come back. I've noted what has not come back. I've noted what seems to be temporarily or permanently altered. With my thyroid, I've noted things. I've noted, does it feel firm? Does it feel spongy? Does it feel like this? Does it feel like that? Is it infringing on my airway? Is my vocal range changing because it's infringing on my airway? Are these different things happening? Is my hair as thick as it used to be? Is my hair falling out? How is my period now versus then? How is my mood regulation now versus then? Is it unexplainable, or is it other stressors of life that are making me feel from here to here on the inside? Is it because I haven't left the house a lot recently? Is it vitamin D deficiency because I just been typing and having my legs fall asleep? What is it, you know? So I take note of all these things, I change what I can, so I can figure out What is beyond just me? And so, what are my plans for treatment? So, people will say, eat this, drink that, do cardio, blah, blah, blah. Also, telling a girl who was about to be hospitalized for extremely low ferritin to do cardio, moving on. Stretch this, stretch that. All these little things of advice are good when it's just something that you can just change. I have tried so many things. I've been gaslighted, I've been ignored, I've teared up in the doctor's office and they just tell me I got anxiety. I've been, the amount of times I've been gaslighted about my own mental health and about me knowing myself is actually outrageous. And the amount of times I've been gaslighted about the size of my body, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, yes, I'm fat, but I'm the smallest of fat people sizes. So how do y'all treat people who are bigger than me? Because when I go out in public, I'm not so big that it's like, girl, what are you doing? Have some couth. It's I'm big enough that if somebody hits on me, because this has happened to me, somebody hits on me and I say, oh no, thank you, all of a sudden I'm the fat B word. Well, you just thought I was fine 2 seconds ago. So that means you're into fat B words. But they still kind of find me desirable. You see what I'm saying? But I'm not so small that people in the medical field actually respect me as a person or think this is a human. I'm just a thing. You see what I'm saying? So it's I'm fat, but not that fat, but there's still these certain consequences. So I'm in the doctor's office, I'm in the doctor's office thinking, how do y'all treat your patients that are bigger than me? Because if you are treating me like this, this is why people take a trusted person to the doctor with them. And so I'm beyond the point of just observe and do a blood test in 6 months. I've been doing that for 9 years. And mentally, I've been beyond that a long time back. And so, it's beyond just eat more greens. I've been eating greens all my life. Like I said, I'm a Caribbean girl. They was gonna have me eating some greens. So I recently spoke to a trusted relative of mine who's also a medical professional, and we spoke about all this stuff. We've been speaking about it on and off for years. He's just not my doctor, And so I ended up having a CT scan this year for something else. And when I had the CT scan, the radiologist report came back saying that my goiter, one of my goiters, was starting to infringe on my airway. And I said, oh yeah, I already feel that that's happening. What no one told me upon looking at this scan was that and this is really what kills me, you really got to find out everything on your own. If the tumors in your neck start infringing on the trachea and they continue to grow and they continue to do so, it will trigger a condition called tracheomalacia, which is a condition or an incident where the cartilage that keeps the airway open is softened such that the trachea partially collapses, especially during increased airflow. Did I tell you guys that I also sing? Did I tell you guys that they were telling me to do more cardio? You see what I'm saying? You see, you put 2 and 2 together just now and you see what I'm saying. You see what I'm saying. It's sick. And so this deformation of the trachea, the airway deformity, I don't want that. So in other words, even if I were to start taking some sort of Synthroid today, I need to take this bad boy out tomorrow because I cannot leave the goiter pressing on my airway. All these years, they're watching these goiters grow in size. No one says, hey, can you breathe properly? No one says, by the way, you said you're concerned with the left side. You don't want to soften your trachea because you need that. No one, it just doesn't equal 4. The 2 and the 2 are not getting to 4, is the point of what I'm trying to say. So the most common medication that you could take after you take out your thyroid, and I would prefer to take out total instead of partial, because I know people who have done partial and they've had to go back under anesthesia and then do total. I'm not paying for 2 surgeries, period. So when I have it taken out, the most common medicine is Synthroid, which is levothyroxine, which is T4. But some people's bodies do not properly convert T4 into T3. So that ends up being a problem. And they like hate their lives on levo. They regret the surgery. They're like, dang, I might have just risked the thyroid cancer. I would rather die than feel even worse than I felt before. I don't want that for me. So I kept researching. That's how I came about to learn about natural desiccated thyroid, which is like a natural form of T4 and T3, usually called that by the name of armor thyroid. There is also a T2 that is like over the counter, but I don't know as much about T2. So a lot of mainstream doctors, this is just for y'all to know, a lot of mainstream doctors don't want to prescribe their patients the NDT, which is, once again, armor thyroid. But it's like, if I don't like levo, I don't accept that I have to suffer to this extent for the rest of my life. I will find someone who will give me armor thyroid to try that instead. What do I look like going under the knife now 3 times in my life for very serious reasons, just to wake up and say, oh, I guess it's just like this now? No. If I spent my whole 20s advocating for myself, then I'll spend my whole 30s doing that too. I don't even care. All this thinking I'm doing, I say, wait, I got anemia. How does that impact this? Because I already can't metabolize, and I already don't have proper blood flow because my iron levels are trying to come back up, which, by the way, they are a little bit higher than they were, so thank goodness for that. But how will that affect the metabolic functioning of these medicines? Well, it'll be horrible if I have low iron. So if you are anemic, listen up. If you are anemic and you take thyroid medication, it is a very, very, very real possibility that you will develop a very bad anxiety disorder or a very bad panic disorder. I do not want that for you. So if you go to a doctor and they are not telling you to get full panels, tell them, order me a full panel. And if they say no, say, okay, can you just put that down in your notes that we didn't do a full panel, just for my records? Write everything down. Write it down, okay? So what I'm doing to combat this is I've had 8 iron infusions of iron sucrose. I forgot how much it was, I'm sorry y'all, but I had 8 iron infusions of iron sucrose. I take a multi-mineral every other day. I eat a lot of iron-rich foods. The reason I take the multi-mineral every other day is because there is a protein in the body. What is it? Hepcidin? I think it's hepcidin. Okay, y'all, it's definitely Hepcidin. It's just that between the way Anguillians speak and between growing up in the DMV, the common English word or the standard English word and my black ass version of the word are just not always the same. So it's actually Hepcidin. It's a part of iron homeostasis, and it works through the liver. So that is what Hepcidin is. So you can look that up. I think it's Hepcidin, Hepcidin. And that is how you win the spelling bee. Thank you. So multivitamins, multiminerals, you can use the brand Young Again. That's what I use. They have a really good deal for the multivitamin and multimineral 2 bottles. You can order them together. You can like subscribe to them too. Or you could just go to the Target, Walgreens, wherever, whatever. Walgreens kind of prices be up there these days though. Feral is not enough. If you're like me and you're a little bit beyond just a spoonful of feral, don't play yourself. Get that multi-mineral. See if you can get infusions. Please do not ignore if you are having a reaction to the iron. Hopefully your nurses and technicians will not ignore it. But please, if you feel funny or if you feel like you're gonna throw up, please alert them. But I try to do this. I try to get 100 grams of protein a day. I'm gonna have to drink a little clear protein after this because I can't eat no more today. Because once again, I don't have a functional thyroid. That's a big part of controlling your metabolism and your weight. I do not have a functional metabolism. I don't get hungry as fast as I should. And so, people will give advice, eat enough so that you don't actively get hungry. So eat this little healthy snack after 3 hours. I'm not hungry after 3 hours. I literally these conditions and the fact that people used to be so shit to me about my weight when I was younger, it really created some really disordered eating habits. And I've become conscious of that several years ago, and I've been working on it since then. But I'm just literally not hungry. And I get hungry after I work out, but then I'm so hungry, you know what I'm saying? So I'm really working on I'll just eat a little bit of this. I can't finish it now. So I get up, I do something, I come back, I finish it, get my 20 grams of protein, get my healthy fats, get everything I need in that meal, okay? And I'm doing all these things, just reading more, researching more. I am meeting for an initial consultation with a general surgeon next month. All my other specialists, which I have 3, know what's up, and that I plan to have this procedure safely and effectively, most likely sometime in the first half of next year. And I'm gonna let y'all know how that goes. If anything changes, just subscribe so you can get the updates, because I feel thyroid issues are so, they're pretty common these days, or maybe in all days. I don't know what they were back in the day, whatever. They're pretty common these days, but so much of the information is just fear mongering, and everybody's I lost my life, and it's I understand that might really be so, but I gotta talk to the people who are real similar to me who are scared to go to the doctor. So that's what I gotta do. Just pray and send a positive thought and put it out into the air, everything, that this goes well and that I can come back with some good updates, and that a year from now I can release a little breath and say, whew, we're getting used to it. So that's my hope. And yeah, that's been my thyroid experience so far. My creature is getting antsy, so I gotta take her outside. And this whole experience has been so revealing, and it's disappointing to know that for so long I have been completely correct about myself and just yelling into this void, with people making violent assumptions about my body and about my mind, my sense of self, and my knowledge of myself and my own interiority, to the point that I nearly questioned myself. But one thing about me, I'm gonna come back. Again and again and again and again. So if this is your moment to listen to yourself and say, I need to come back, start doing so. Start doing so. Don't give up on yourself. As far as possible, do not give up on yourself. And I'm so serious. At the end of the day, you have this vessel, you have this mind, and they are connected. And they are you. You are them. When you wake up, if there is something that you cannot accept, work at it just a little bit. I've been chipping away at this bullshit for almost a decade. And I have had to recalibrate my mind so many times because clearly my thyroid can't do it. And I'm still here and I'm still popping, and now I'm talking to you. So if this is what you need to do to make that appointment, finally get up and go search for it. Affirm yourself, period.